sometimes too much is not enough.
Hello, Tom.
Dana, what's happening?
Not much. Taking a
What?
break from watching old cartoons to record this episode of Two Guys Talking Toys
Oh,
with you.
well, that's good news for me. I don't know if it's good news for you.
I've been watching because I've been cleaning the animals and doing. I had the Super Friends. I
Mhm.
bought the box, all of it,
Uh,
like every change in title, all in one set.
uh,
And there's one episode that made me like laugh out loud because it made fun of itself. It's a TV show. It doesn't
really?
generally make fun. I mean, there's a lot to make fun of, right? Because it's,
But
very campy and blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
So, of course, it's the first season where none of the supervillains win. It was these, demented scientists doing something goofy like turning gold into iron because gold is the
Mhm.
root of all evil, right?
Uh-huh.
And so there's like the scientist dude and his sidekick, which is always the formula, and it's always the same guy. There's like five guys doing all the voices and all the show.
Mhm.
So the scientist goes, I know exactly what we're going to do because Superman was coming. And he leans over to his sidekick and he goes, like you hear the whisper. And then he leans back and he goes to the sidekick and he's like, do you understand? And the sidekick goes, yes, except I don't know what means.
Wow,
It's like,
that's
oh,
pretty awesome.
that's so great. And it's early on. I think it was still Ted Knight doing the narration,
Uh,
and he was very like descriptive on all the superheroes. Like Superman with his mega intelligence figures out this, that, and Batman with his acrobatic skills, and Wonder Woman with her incredible strength and her incredible transparent jet. Like I was then picturing like, what if he showed up drunk? And he was like, and Wonder Woman with her sweet self going back to like
they all turn and face the camera. Ah,
he
I
was all
said it.
so complimentary and
I paid her a
Superman with
compliment.
those Dudley muscles.
They all just get really self-conscious, start covering up.
Right. I want that guy to follow me around all day and just say anything I do and add two outstanding adverbs before it. And it'd be great. It would make my day. But I started thinking, like, what if he showed up drunk to this? What would that sound like? And that's what popped into my head.
That makes me hope that we get at some point some sort of either whether it be an extra on a DVD or just a random production note of a recording session, because that what you just said reminded me. There's an episode of Transformers that was recently put out, or it was like a behind the scenes thing, and it's the full recording session for an entire episode. So you get to hear all the takes, and you'll hear
Oh, that's cool.
and you've done voice acting, I'm sure.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like
I have. Yeah.
they have the whole, they do a line and then they hear the voice director who's like, bring it up more, and then they
Right.
do it again. He's like, okay, not that high, whatever. But then you get to hear the flubs too. So it's Optimus Prime who's like, I think it's, oh, what episode is it? I think it's I think it's Heavy Metal War. I'm not sure. I want to say it's the episode where Megatron, like gets all the powers of the Decepticons and challenges Prime to a fight. I haven't watched the entire thing, so I don't remember
Right.
offhand. But the scene or the clips that I've heard, it's almost like the Thundercat outtakes, where it's Megatron flying up by the Autobot base, and they're all shooting at him, and he's not firing back. So
Yeah.
Prime's like, "What's wrong, Megatron? It's not like you to F." It's just them swearing. Just typical stuff that happens.
It's like
I'm sure.
Autobots. F
Yeah.
off. Yeah.
And he's trying to say ratchet, and he's like, I just keep saying like wretched instead of ratchet.
That's funny how that got switched culturally.
I know, right? You would think it's a little weird, a little disappointing.
Yeah. Right.
So
Did you get anything new?
I have gotten. All right, so that I have a problem.
I do. And
you
you know what? I didn't get a chance to comment, but Dale commented that if that company did Star Wars in that,
oh, holy cow,
that would be amazing. Right? I didn't get a chance to comment and reply to him,
I'm
but
sorry.
thank you for that because that was brilliant.
Yeah.
I love it. That's a great idea.
Sorry, I've been slacking on checking the comments and responding.
But
yeah, that's
being responsible workers that we are.
That's a great idea, and after last week's show, I went and kind of double checked the things that Blockies has been kind of getting their hands on, and they've got a lot of IP going. They're almost like Beastbox, where like we're used to seeing the stuff that Beastbox has released just here with X number of animals and dragons and whatnot, but overseas, or maybe like Hush Hush, don't say anything. They've done Marvel, they've done Ninja Turtles, they've got like all this product out. Blockies seems to be the same way. I don't know if there's any, not to imply that there's any sort of IP funniness going on, but Blockies has Pokemon, Marvel stuff, Kamen Rider, Ultraman, like all that fun stuff. So while I'm not into that aspect of Blockies, even their main site really only focuses on, a majority of it is Transformers stuff, which is fine with me, because I got, again, thanks to eBay earnings, I was able to get my hands on just a few more Blockies.
Are all of those characters in that box that you just showed?
Yep. Just a few more. Just a few more Blockies. These light up. these
light up. Wow.
Yep, they have little.
You do have a problem.
I do. I just and this is. I don't know if you'll be proud of me for this or not, but in this particular instance, in these cases that I've gotten, I do not want duplicates. I hope that there are no duplicates in these cases I've gotten. Maybe
I don't think I've ever thought I'd hear you say that. Yeah,
like just this one go round, because I actually want kind of everybody who's in these case assortments. But after that, then I'll be fine doubling up and maybe trying to do some customizing. Oh, one more thing, because I forgot to show this last week. So I'm super duper into Blockies and can't help myself, and going down the rabbit hole looking for just whatever I could that is Blockies and Transformers related. On Big Bad Toy Store, they had this little guy. He's a clear Sharkticon, but as Sharkticons tend to do, you can open him up and store all your extra Blocky parts in there.
Oh, how cool!
It's hilarious. I love it. And then I went too far and found out that there's like a clear purple version of this guy, because apparently these were released in they were in Toys R Us. They were like a free prize in Toys R Us overseas, of course. And if you bought, I guess, like X number of Blocky figures, and you would get one of these, and it was a blind pack. So you were probably going to get. There are opaque blue versions of this, but of course I need the clear one.
The clear one's more fun.
Yeah,
you know what it looks like? Remember that episode of the X-Men, the original animated series, when they had that wannabe Dungeons and Dragons looking energy monster?
Oh yeah,
that was down in the sewers. It looks like that.
So strange. But yeah, I love this, and I kind of hope that I would love to get like an even larger version of this, because it's so much fun. This is. It
almost looks like something that would have come with the Ghostbusters toys, the old Ghostbusters toys.
Oh yeah, the what were they? I forgot what their names were, because I didn't collect the line. But yeah, like the creepy ghost critters. But now he's an adorable clear Sharkticon that eats all your extra Blocky bits, and you can do the Jaws theme. I love it so much. And as you might expect, I received something in the mail that I have not opened yet. So
I did too. Literally moments before getting on, I got this box from Big Bad. I'm not going to open it now because I've got other things. But literally, I walked down here and put on my headphones after pulling this off the porch.
We're not gonna see what's in that box.
Well, then, what would I show next week?
You'll just have to get more stuff. Look, you signed on to this. You got to commit to the bit.
No, you've got the bit. I show the open stuff. It's your bit.
It's your responsibility to bring as much toy.
I don't show my bits on camera.
You got to pay extra for that. Stay tuned for our Patreon, ladies and gentlemen. So this is Transformers Legacy Armada Wheeljack. Not nice. He's a great character. Armada got a lot of flack for being, it's not the best show. It's one of those shows where like the intro is pretty cool. The certain episodes have pretty good animation, or like kind of above standard animation, and then it syncs, like a lot of anime does. It's kind of sinks back to a certain level of animation to get the general point across. And then for specific episodes or certain fight scenes, you see where the money goes. So there's like towards the end of the series, the Optimus Prime and the Megatron have a, I mean, I call him the Optimus Prime like he's the Rock, but Optimus Prime and Megatron in this series have a crazy, amazing fight that is awesome. But Wheeljack is from that line.
Is that like battle damage on his chest? Is that what?
Yeah, he actually has a pretty cool story in the show. He was left behind. Like the war on Cybertron is happening, and I think he either got hurt or he was left behind or something. And he wanted his friends to save him, but they thought he was dead, so they left him behind. And he was like,
I've seen it 100 times.
Yeah, he's like, Autobots, you don't mean anything to me anymore. And he tore his insignia instead of tastefully repainting it and doing,
Could have had something airbrushed.
Yeah,
this on to like Pimp My Ride or whatever.
Yeah, a little extreme, but still great. And there's a shattered glass repaint of him into the colors of another character named Drench, who looks really cool. And he came in a 2-pack with shattered glass Rodimus. No, it wasn't Rodimus Prime, just Rodimus. But I think I skipped it. I wasn't able to get my hands on it at the time. I don't know if it's still available for a regular price. I need to look that up again. But yeah, this guy is pretty cool. I'm glad that we have him now.
Cool.
So that's what I got this week. What about you? What'd you get?
Aside from this big box that I'm not opening right now, I got
sadness for me.
You'll see him later, Tom. The Venom Pool.
Hey!
Even though I said I was done with Marvel Legends for a while, I had to get this because it's a phenomenal figure.
Yeah, some sculpts are just so good,
and it was like $35, something like that. So everything's going up now. Even the McFarlane stuff. We used to say, thank God, Todd McFarlane's keeping his stuff, and it's now up to $30 a figure. But you're paying $30 for some other Joker repaint Batman, and for a couple of more bucks, you're getting this guy. Yeah, I love that he's got the old school Venom look where his top is really big and the legs don't match.
Did you get the original Build-A-Figure?
No, that's the line I picked up for you when I found them all. I didn't pick one up for me, but this is such a great figure. But here's what I don't understand: like, you take this figure, right? Painted black and put the emblem on there, and this is the best Venom figure that you would have had in years.
It's really good.
Why can't we get a Venom that looks this good?
But their Build-A-Figure Venom is actually pretty good. It's a little confusing because the first one that we got, the deco on it looked more like, it didn't look like Venom. It looked more like it was there was a period of time they did a mini series where Eddie Brock didn't have the symbiote and it was kind of bouncing around, and this was after Flash Thompson had it, so it was bouncing around, and it wound up with this new character they introduced. I think his name was Lee something or another, and it generally manifests as kind of a different design to differentiate it from other people who have the Venom costume. Like Agent Venom looks different from Eddie Brock Venom, and this one looked kind of like Venom, but a little bit more feral. So the spider design was a little bit more crazy. And that was the first Venom Build-A-Figure. And the coloring was a little bit different. It was more of a purplish, kind of metallic almost. And it was a really weird choice because it didn't match that design exactly, but it was clearly supposed to be Venom. So, so a lot of people were like, why didn't you just make this Venom? And if you're going to go in this direction and do something wild, make Scorpion Venom. Because we still haven't gotten that either. Cool. As much as I hated when they did that whole thing where they stripped
where everybody was symbiote.
Yeah, but they gave it to like Matt Gargan, and it was just kind of silly. But that design, the Venom having the scorpion tail, is kind of cool. Matt Gargan as Venom is stupid, but the only cool thing was
the storyline was dumb, but the design was cool. You come across that a lot. The other thing that I finally picked up, Tom, is this thing that I've been looking at forever because it went on to clearance again. I don't know if you can see it. It was $11.09. So, loyal listeners, all I want out of this is this crystal skull. That
crystal skull,
because it's either it's fantastic, and it does the smoke effect. It's either going to be like a throne for one of the Saurozoic warriors who can sit. You can see in there's a place he can sit, and then the smoke would come out of his butt, but who knows? Or this would be a great display to put that saber-toothed tiger crawling through, the one that
Oh yeah, that too.
Derek got me for
Look
the
really cool
holidays.
with the
Like,
smoke. Yeah,
wouldn't that look cool with the smoke coming up?
yeah, that would
That'd
look
be a
really cool.
great photo too. So I'm gonna try and get that. But
Get on that.
that figure is pretty lame, and the T-Rex makes sounds when you probably won't be able to hear it when you do his arm. And there's a pterodon up there. But for
That,
$11, you can't go wrong. This thing was like
it-
originally like what, 35, $40,
yeah,
and then it went down to
yep.
18. Now at 11, I'll buy it for 11 to get
That
this.
the little human guy looks like Agent Smith on vacation.
Yeah.
He got tired of trying to kill Neil. He wanted some time for himself. He's
Yeah.
gonna go hang out in the dinosaur simulation.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I am just chilling on the beach.
Yeah. And this dinosaur carries his neighbor's groceries.
You can program that in the Matrix. That's not too far out of the realm of reason for that world.
Right. Yeah. So
That,
that's what I got, and then I'll open this and show you some more stuff next week.
I am very curious to see what's in the big bad toy store box, because I bet it's filled with all kinds of great goodies. Possibly too many goodies, which brings me
Too many.
yeah, that kind of brings me to the thing that I wanted to talk about today.
I feel like if we were in person, I might have to smack you. Like, what do you mean too many? What's
about?
wrong with you, Tom? Too many.
don't know who you are anymore. Yes, get up. Good day.
I said good day.
Wait, come back. Check, please. I thought it'd be an interesting topic to go into. The idea of and you hear it as collectors, almost no matter what age that we're at. You may hear it from other people, and you yourself may be sitting around and looking at kind of everything that you've got, and say to yourself, "Do I have too much stuff? Do I have too many toys?" And that's kind of the question that I want to pose, like not to you specifically, but kind of as a broad.
To feel like this is the start of an intervention.
Two more people are going to come in on like either side of you and be like, "Data,
right, we love you.
You have so many tick figures. Look, I can stop collecting toys anytime I want. I just don't want to.
Yeah.
Leave them alone."
I often think there are two types of people in the world. Who was it? Was it Steve Martin who said there are two types of people in the world: the people who believe there are two types and the others? But no, but either people will walk down and see the collection and then understand that this has sort of been my life work, right? Since I've been in elementary school. And they'll think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Or they'll think it's really sad.
Yeah.
And a real waste of time and money, right? So, and we've all been there, and seen somebody who has a hobby, and you're like, what? Why?
What are you doing?
You know what I mean? But who cares? Like, do what you want, but do whatever brings you joy, right? But
make you happy.
There is, I believe, such a thing as too many, and there are times now when sometimes I think that because like I don't have everything on display anymore, so they're not as bringing me as much joy as they once did on the daily, right? They still bring me joy, but on the daily, I would love coming down and seeing everything on display and knowing that this is something I cared about and that was important to me. But now they're not on display, and they're it's difficult to store them safely, and then you're like, well, what if I move? Like, am I ever going to have space to put them on display? And then, then you start thinking, has this been a waste of time and money? Because now they're just a box of plastic, right?
Yeah.
So I can see why people would think that.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you kind of you brought up the display, because I think that's a huge part of it. Like, as collectors, that's almost.
And I'm proud to see Metlar behind you, by the way.
He's having a grand time with blockies as well.
Is that what you look like while you were putting them together with that big glow in the dark grin on your face?
Oh, it's man, I don't get me
Glow in
started.
the light, I guess.
We'll have to do a whole episode on blockies, because man, but I agree with what you're saying about getting stuff and then displaying it and having that joy, because so many of us, that's kind of the point. Like, you get what you enjoy, and in some way, shape, or form, everyone who collects something is hoping that is probably hoping that someone else, or that they can show it off to someone else who can look at it and see how much they enjoy it, just like anyone else.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
You want to share that joy.
yeah, like whether it be cars or a stamp collection or whatever, like that's what people want. But the display is always such a uh, it brings both joy and then not joy, because depending on how much stuff you have, because a lot of us don't have interest in just one specific thing. You know, looking at your display behind you and what I've got on display behind me, we've got toys from all types. So when you're setting up your display and you've got whatever stuff out, and you just run out of real estate, and depending on where you are in life, a lot of us don't have a mansion or an abandoned bookstore to just display everything.
Right.
And putting things in man, I hate putting things in storage. I hate putting things in bins. It saddens me, because it in all of those bins are something that you took the time to look for, to pick up, to purchase. And whether or not you display them or not, now they're no longer, like you said, like they're away now. So kind of out of sight, out of mind. You're not getting that same enjoyment out of it. And as you continue to grow, and as years go by, you're still getting more stuff. You're still picking out more things. There's still figures and toys and action figure lines that you love and enjoy, and updates to figures that you love and enjoy. You definitely want to get them. But now maybe like the older stuff is in bins because you've had to move them out, or you just don't have the real estate.
Right.
And you wind up thinking, and you look at, just all the bins that are around. And we've both gone through this, depending on what's going, whether or not you move, or if there's something going on in the apartment, or if you're getting fumigated, or painting has to happen, or construction, you have to box all of that up. And then life happens, or you get busy doing other.
Yeah, it's
and you start to wonder, do I have too much stuff? Because you've got to move all this stuff around now, and it's and you've mentioned this before, when we're moving, when we had the storage unit, and we're just moving just bins of figures that we love, but at the same time, it's 50 pounds of plastic that you have to deal with, and you're like, do I have too many?
Yeah. So what do you think is the aside from space, like what would be the first, like if we were addicted to something more harmful, like what do you think is the point where somebody should be like, yeah, I have too many, I need to do something? Like at what point? I would think when it becomes a monetary issue, like when you're not paying your bills, so you could go buy toys, which makes sense to me.
Yeah, and I think that we all know. I think we all know people like that, like people who are just I joke about being fiscally irresponsible, but my rent is paid and my bills are paid for. The important ones, for as best as we can do, are paid. Like I'm not behind. I'm not in super duper debt. All that.
Right. Yeah.
But we all have that. We all know someone who, from whatever it is that they do, who are just drowning. And they don't make the best decisions to make sure that they themselves are just okay, like that they have a stable baseline. And we got to see as YouTube became a lot more available, and people began to know how to navigate it more easily, and just started kind of putting their lives out there. I remember, especially in like the early 2000s, maybe like early mid 2000s, seeing a lot of toy YouTube channels pop up, and there was a period
like
of time. Just like this one. I take it back. Not a lot like this one. I feel like we're kind of one of a kind with two guys, because a lot of early toy YouTube shows were toy reviews, which is fine.
Right? And a lot still are now. Like it's all about the opening and not about the culture of
But you also started seeing this weird. There were people that were just reviewing stuff that came out, which was fine. And then there was this strange period of time where people were able, and I think I may have gone over this in an earlier episode. People were finding, they were importing prototype versions of action figures.
Right.
I saw this.
It had to be first.
Yeah. It was the whole, I have to be first. And I saw it specifically play out in the Transformers fandom. I don't know if it happened with other fandoms. It very well may have. I just wasn't paying attention at the time. But I remember seeing those those eBay sellers who were clearly overseas, who clearly worked in a factory somewhere, and we all know that factories run off maybe a couple hundred just random figures to warm up the machines and make sure that everything fits properly. And maybe those find their way into someone's backpack, or maybe someone grabs 10 or 15, just, these little, they're worthless over there. They, in a factory job where you're making thousands of these a day, they don't care. So they would walk out and they go to eBay and realize that dumb American people or dumb people online are willing to pay 5, 6, 7 times retail to get this figure
first
beforehand. And it would turn into these crazy bidding wars, but you would see it play out live on these YouTube channels where someone would get something first and then they'd get all the views. And then someone else would get something else first, and then they would get all the views. And then you had people who fell in the middle, who were maybe college level, maybe freshly out of college level. You're still getting your life together, but you want your YouTube channel to be your thing. And they would spend rent to get toys instead of getting toys for fun and doing it for whatever. And it turned into like this big thing. So it was sad to see people begin to financially destroy themselves to get toys, because now you're not enjoying them anymore. It's not about having fun and doing what you love. It's now a source of stress. And I think that for some collectors, there is a stress that comes along with having so many figures and maybe not enough space.
Right. Plus that collector bug, like that thing in your brain that makes you, and it's like any collector, right? You have that, like I grow fearful sometimes when I watch shows like Hoarders and this, because they have that, like, obviously you and I are not that sick yet, but that attaching value to things that may not have value, or the importance of your collection becoming who you are, right? So when you're like, I'm the toy collector guy, so I can't not buy the toy, right? And that other bug where a new series comes out and you're like, I have to have them all. Like I've felt that sometimes. Like I don't. This character really doesn't speak to me. I have no sentimental value to this character. But it's the last one I need. I need it to finish my collection. Like, and it takes, like, I have to override that sometimes. And there's a process I have to go through. Like, I will pick it up and I will shop the rest of the store, and then I will go put it back. But I have to go through that process, and people probably think I have a real problem now. But it's just that collector bug. Like, I have to talk myself out of it, right?
I totally agree. Like, it is something that it's that release of dopamine, whether it be finding that last figure in a set that completes that set. I know that it's funny you bring up Hoarders, because on my Samsung TV, I have random free channels, and one of those channels is 24 hours Hoarders.
So you're hoarding the show is what you're doing.
So I watch that and I'm like, well, not as bad as that lunatic.
Right, you can always find someone who's in worse shape than you to justify your own condition. Right?
Yeah, you're like, I'm not. There's nothing wrong with buying multiple cases of blockies. I'm not storing 72 cats in a closet. That's not.
I do that now after turning 50. I just walk through the hospital every day like, well, I'm better off than that guy. So I'm fine. I don't have to exercise.
Doing pretty good. I think I'm doing pretty all right.
Again, the next step, though, I'll have to be like walking through the cemetery. Oh, I'm better off than that guy.
Making fun of him, you suckers. You guys, what are you doing?
I'm still alive.
But yeah, there is absolutely a dopamine hit that you get when you, whatever it is that you have decided is what's important to you in collecting, when that hits for the longest time, and even now I have to back off sometimes. eBay is a toy collector's paradise and also a toy collector's heroin, because your money will go fast, and there's so many rabbit holes to fall down. You'll see something like, holy cow, I forgot all about Gorzak. I gotta find Gorzak. And then you find one for cheap. And then the next step is, well, maybe I can find one that's complete. Or maybe I can do, and that's where sniping makes it even worse, because you're like, I nailed that deal. And sometimes it it evolves into not being about the toy anymore, and it's about getting that deal.
Right. It's about ego. I'm also a competitive person, so
Mm-hmm.
eBay is not good for me because I have the collector bug, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm gonna display it, I want it to look pretty good.
Yeah.
And I'm competitive. So somebody outbids me and I'm like, you son of a
Yep. Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what it becomes. I have to.
Yep.
I've tried to. That's why I'm so glad that Gixxon it exists. If you it auto snipes for you, I can
Right. I
set up.
can't do that.
Oh,
I'd have 1,000 of them set up. I would have an army of snipers surrounding the entire website.
it's almost like Nick Dern, where it kind of helps. It kind of helps that addiction where I can now, instead of getting into a bidding war with someone, which I don't like doing anyway, or getting into a snipe war with someone, I can
Mhm.
set that up. I can walk away. I can walk away, which did take some doing. I can walk away from it,
Right.
then come back later, or it'll send a notice as to whether or not you won. And I'm like, oh, okay, good. So that saved me the trouble of, am I going to get it? I have to have it. And
Right.
in the throes of a bidding war, you're like, well, I absolutely have to have it, as opposed to just having
Right.
this thing throw in your bid, and if you get it, great. If you don't, you don't.
I have
But
that problem even like personally. Like if
mm-hmm,
somebody's across the table from me and you're in a group of people and
mm-hmm,
they do a little snipe at you, like a little jab. Well, I'm
mm,
not going to jab back. I'm going to blast them out the window with whatever I have to say, right? So like I don't play subtle jabs. I'm going to blast you. And and it's the same thing with eBay. You're going to outbid me by 10 cents. Ridiculous.
oh, so irritating. A lot of my Battle Beast recollecting was getting in the bidding wars over random lots of Battle Beasts, and getting them home and then displaying them. I almost wound up with this issue of having an issue setting up displays, if that makes any sense. Like I would set up displays, and
My
then
favorite.
I would have an idea for something else, or I would move, and I sometimes it's just not worth the time and the hassle to take shelving down and move it to wherever, especially if you're in the
Mhm.
city. and, and I would just toss everything and be like, well, time to start again. Time to do new display ideas. So for this place, I had a whole setup where it was like the multi stack. I Frankenstein two sets of
Mhm.
shelving units together to have a really large display, and that, after I had some reconstructing issues go on in the apartment, and I'd take everything down. That's in storage now, and I've since lost a couple of pegs to hold it together. And my thought
Right.
process is not, I
I
should
think I've
go.
lost a few pegs to hold myself together.
aren't we all? Once you hit that age, or once you get a little bit up there, post 40 is no fun. Um, but after losing those, and it didn't take much. You'd think that the thought process would be, well, I can just replace those and set the display back up. No, my thought process was,
I need another display.
I need another display. I
Yeah.
can Frankenstein another display together and make something totally different. Why? I don't know. Because I want something a little bit different. And I think that we get like that as collectors, where everything, whatever display we got is great. Like the ultimate Thundercats line is great. And then once you get your core group of Thundercats, good luck getting Wily Kit and Wily Cat, by the way. But
Right.
once you get your core group together, then you might be like, done. And then you just swipe them off the shelf, and you're like, on to blockies.
Right.
And I think that happens I feel like that happens frequently. And whether you are or not aware of it, that's what we wind up doing. And then you're not getting rid of the old stuff, because we have a tendency to think that, well, somewhere down the line, I'm going to come back to that and maybe set up a different display with like classic stuff versus new
Right.
stuff. And then you don't. And then you wind up with 12 bins of things that is like walking through a museum again, where
Right.
if you ever go through them and you're like, holy cow, it's this.
I feel like we are talking a lot about actually having too many. Like you know what I mean? But it's one of those things where it's so if it's what you do, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
neither you or I drink, we don't
Yeah.
go out. often. You know what I mean? We like
Mhm.
to go see movies or have lunch together, but
Yeah.
it's not like we have expensive lifestyles. We're not
Yeah.
taking vacations. We're not doing,
Mhm.
those crazy things, driving crazy cars or,
Mhm.
these are the things that bring us joy,
Yeah.
as opposed to, like having friends. So
Overrated. I'm just gonna put it
yeah,
out there.
overrated.
Having too many
Overrated.
friends, overrated. I
Uh,
never agree with the Facebook friends system.
Um, but it's one of those things, like it's not a if this then that, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it is that finds you joy, that's what you should invest your energy in.
Mhm.
So on the flip side of that, so what are the good things that come from having so many toys for you, Tom?
I'm gonna say not having to go back and recollect things because my I know how I am. I know that sometimes whether it be in a move or uh, sometimes we as collectors have a tendency to purge, depending on where you're at in
Right.
life, what you're who you're with or what you've got going on, and you say to yourself, not not the not the kind of nose in the air time to leave this behind, or maybe that is the case sometimes, but I think that depending on the phases of life that you're going through, you look at your collection or the stuff that you've got and you say, this can go. I don't need all of this. Like it happens to me sometimes when I go through a move. Like when I was done with college and I uh, work in Philly was not what I wanted it to be, and I found something in New York. Uh, I went through my move and I just had I had so much stuff. I had too much stuff, so I actually wound up throwing a lot of stuff out because I also held on to boxes. That was one of my other, I have too many of these things. Um, I threw out a lot of stuff. And then when I moved from my apartment, I had an apartment in Jersey when I was working in New York. So I moved from one apartment to another and then to another. But in each one of those moves, I left a lot of things behind or threw them out or I purged a bunch of it. I sold a lot for dirt cheap on eBay. But being a little bit more settled now, I think one of the things that I really like about having as much stuff as I do, and you can look at anyone's collection and be like, that's too much. But I like that I no longer have to worry about going back and refinding things,
Right.
especially now. Like you and I came up. We were fortunate enough to come up when eBay was new-ish, and we had whether we just kind of be first getting into the workforce or being far enough along where we had a decent amount of money to then be able to get the things that we were looking for because no one else is looking for them.
Right. Right.
Now everybody's looking for them. And humanoids, your old school
Right.
super
I
hawks,
remember when
it's all going to cost.
I was the only toy collector that I knew,
Mm-hmm.
aside from my brothers, of course. But like
Yeah.
there was like, and then we found people because you have like-minded
Mm-hmm.
thing. But you're right. It seemed like I was on an island for a while.
Yeah. And it was almost it was almost cheaper to be for things to be that way
Right.
because you could find those rare things, and even if they were a little bit more than what you would normally get, like I could in 2004 I could go on eBay and buy a lot of I don't know 22 battle beasts for probably about $50
Right.
easily. And even then, I'd be annoyed because I would only be getting them for like one or two in that lot.
Right.
Now, a lot of maybe four battle beasts will go from anywhere between 50 to $70.
Right. I
It,
hate that eBay has become the price guide.
yes.
So pre-eBay, my brothers and my
Mm-hmm.
family, we would go to like Pennsylvania and we'd go to these flea markets and find stuff for dollars, like
Yeah.
just cheap,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they would just use toys. They
Yeah.
weren't collector items. They would just use toys.
Mm-hmm.
And we were buying them as collectors.
Yeah.
Um, but now flea market folks, those
Mm-hmm.
vendors, are picking up stuff at yard sales or whatever, and then looking them up on eBay,
Yeah.
finding out how much they're going for. And then so now flea markets are no longer the cheap treasure chests that they used to be because everybody's using eBay as a price guide. So,
And because they're not using it right, and they're just looking at what things are listed as instead
Right,
of
it's
what
sold as,
they've
yeah.
sold for, then yeah, people think that anything that has dust on it is super duper valuable. And I that kind of circles me back to what you were saying before. When yeah, we as collectors, we have our collections and we love them and we like looking at them, but we also like other people seeing it. So when someone comes into your space and they see your collection, you have you have the response of, yeah, either this is super cool, which should be the response, this is super
Right,
cool, or this is really sad, or that occasional third response, you should sell all this. You know what this is
right,
worth?
yeah, yeah.
And it's a
Because they've seen 40-Year-Old Virgin, and
yeah, they've seen that, or they've seen like American Pickers, or they've seen Pawn Stars, which I despise the show possibly more than Big Bang Theory. Uh, I I I think that there's this perception that, well, you're only doing it because of the like there's stocks and bonds and whatnot, and
right, yeah.
some
And
people
some
do
people
that.
do, yeah, yeah.
But I think your display is not that. I think if you're buying stuff with the intention to sell, that's not stuff you have on display and want people to see. You go and
Right,
show people, here are my penny stocks. Or maybe some people do. But
right,
uh, there's this idea that, oh, well, you collected all of this stuff and it has this X value to it. And maybe some of the stuff that you've collected does, because there are a lot of things in both our collections that will fetch a pretty penny on the aftermarket, but that's not why we do it.
right,
And I think the idea of having too much of what makes you happy is a fallacy.
right.
It's
Unless it's cocaine.
yeah, unless it's cocaine or cheesecake, maybe.
Hey, hold now, now. Oh, pump the
I think
brakes on the cheesecake.
too much cheesecake might be bad. Yeah, I'm not going to say I would stop eating it. Absolutely continue to eat said cheesecake, but I think that the idea that, oh, well, you're collecting these things and you could be selling them. It's like, well, that's not the point.
Right,
I know for some people it is, but there's also that mindset that everyone that you see that has something valuable, and most things that people enjoy. I shouldn't say most things. A lot of things that people enjoy, like you mentioned before, yeah, just eating, a lot of collecting things that are perishable or experiences. Like you go on vacation and you spend $5,000 and you have pictures and you have memories of that experience, and that's awesome. And for us that maybe don't go on many super duper expensive trips to Cairo, we have or if you prefer Antarctica, or
Indiana Jones.
yeah, I don't know where you would prefer to go on a big fancy expensive trip, but you bring kind of non-tangible things back with you, whereas a lot of what we have that makes us happy and over the years has been tangible items that stay with us. And sure, your memories stay with you, and sure, that photo stays with you, but that's not taking up space in your collection.
Right.
For us, it is. So we have a much, I think a lot of people may have the misconception that we went out and bought all this stuff yesterday. And like you
Right.
said earlier, this is a lifetime, accumulation of things that have meant something to us.
Right. When people ask like why? So as you know,
Mm-hmm.
Tom, I buy toys that I connect with.
Mm-hmm.
Even the new stuff like the Fury Planets, like I have a love for animals, and
Yeah.
those figures are
Oh, they're so
really
good.
well sculpted and well done,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they're reptilian.
Oh,
But toys have to connect with me. It's almost
yeah.
like getting a tattoo, because when we were younger, my two brothers and I, myself and Derek and Dale,
Mm-hmm.
like we were, all three of us are different from one another in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, Derek kind of kept to himself a lot
Mm-hmm.
and read a lot and did his thing. And Dale was off doing his thing. And so Dale and I have in common like a love for movies, and he's really big into music, and I used to be when I was younger. And then my older brother and I have our love for reptiles that my younger brother doesn't share. So like I have
Yeah.
things I share with Derek, and I have things I share with Dale. But the
Mm-hmm.
one thing we all three came together on, even when we were kids, was action figures, the
Yeah.
toys, so that we would play together in such a way, like I told you, like we would redo the basement and all
Mm-hmm.
these things, and we would collectively decide these shifts that would happen, like from Transformers to He-Man to G.I. Joe to superheroes, and we'd kind of shift that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it was the one thing that unites all three of us.
Yeah.
So when we get the re-release of new figures like G.I. Joe and He-Man and Thundercats and all of the Ninja Turtles and all the things that are happening right now. For me, it's like reliving that connection
Hmm.
and remembering that. It's
Yeah.
almost like every time I get to see my toys, especially some of the vintage stuff and the newer stuff, like I
Hmm.
remember like, oh, Dale did a great character development for that figure, or Derek, really changed the way we were playing because he started that line of figures.
Yeah.
He brought in the stuff that was off center. He brought in Dungeons and
Hmm.
Dragons and Ninja Turtles when they first came out.
Yeah.
And I start to remember, and we would construct these stories and worlds, which was the most fun for us. It wasn't the bang bang shoot 'em up,
Hmm.
thing, which we did,
Yeah.
but constructing the world and telling stories to, entangle all of these different universes and characters, and how do we get the wrestlers involved with, Apocalypse, right? Like, so
Yeah.
we get these storylines, which was the
Hmm.
most fun. And
Yeah.
so now every time I buy a toy or an action figure, I think to myself after I open it and I see it, I'm like, how would we have woven this character
Hmm.
into our storyline, or which toy line would this character be with, and how would we get them introduced, and
Yeah.
who would be doing the voice? Like I said, it was a theatrical production. We
Hmm.
would change voices, do accent, like create different worlds. um and we did that probably longer than most of our friends did, like into our mid-teens. And it was,
Hmm.
like I said, it was less bang bang shoot 'em up and more story development, character development, how they interact, how are we telling the story. And now when I see everyone on the same scale,
Hmm.
I imagine like what would our because we would change our universe depending upon the scale of the figures.
Yeah.
So like we weren't using G.I. Joe with He-Man because that's ridiculous. Uh, but now to have He-Man, Batman, Cobra Commander, Skeletor, the Toxic Crusaders, the Wrestlers, like all on the same scale with
Hmm.
similar aesthetics and articulation.
Hmm.
Man, that would have been awesome when we were kids. Um, it would, oh God, it just would have been heaven. But to me, connecting to these toys is connecting back to the one thing that all three of us came together on.
Yeah.
Even now, when the
Hmm.
three of us are together, we talk about a lot of things. Like we're not
Yeah.
just, toy geeks, but
Hmm.
at some point we'll spend an entire meal just talking about our collections, our toys, what we're looking for, why we're looking for them. And
Hmm.
when people say why, like these are that's why. That's why.
Yeah. These I like the way you put that, because these, you're right, these are for a lot of figures that we have in our collection, those are our snapshots of a moment in time that we remember for good or for bad.
Yeah.
I know that in mine, yeah, I think that we all spend some time debating whether or not you have too much stuff, but there's so many things in your collection that, yeah, you look at, and it's like a video game, memory unlocked, and you look at it and you're like my Toy Fair Jason Todd figure that I finally got.
Mhm.
I remember getting that, not because yeah, aside from me loving that character and that figure, and I've always kind of wanted it. When I look at that figure on the shelf or on the display, I remember us being in Time Warp and me not remembering that we had been in there before and asked about that figure, and then going to visit my sister, and my brother had it on his shelf, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool. That's the Toy Fair exclusive uh, Jason Todd figure. I would love to get one of that." And he's like, "Oh, was that Time Warp?" I'm like, "Wait, did I?" And I've always I collect so many things.
Right.
Stuff like that will slip my mind sometimes. But the memory of that whole it was there. I asked about it. I forgot. It's not there. My brother has it now.
Right.
And now I have it because that spurred me to, like, I need this now. So I
Right.
tracked it down and I got it. Having that on the shelf, that unlocks all, and it's just fun. The stuff that we collect, runs parallel to the things that are going on in our lives that are not focused on toys. Like as you graduate college and you get your first job and like your girlfriend and your
Right. I can remember when I
like,
got each one of the toys, or when somebody gave them to me, or how I got them, why I got them, where I got them. And people are like, "Oh, this is cool." And I'll say, "Oh, I got that one at the comic
yeah,
shop in Laurenburg
yeah,
after blah blah," like, and they're like, I don't get how you understand that. And it's like that with everything that's important to me. Like when we're driving down the road, I'll say randomly like, "Oh, one time on a rainy day, coming around this corner, there was a chain king snake in the road. I remember that." And everyone's
mhm.
like, I don't really care, but
Yeah, and I guess that's what it comes down to. Is it important to you? Sometimes too much is not enough.
yeah.
Sometimes-
Yeah, and there were those moments where like we're getting a little short on time now, but
Mhm.
in my new office I have a shelf set up and I put the new superpowers stuff up. It's like the
Yeah,
superpower stuff and then a little Plunderlings display, and then I have the McFarlane 89 Batmobile with the 89 Batman standing
yeah,
next to it on one of my small file cabinets. And one of the other guys walks in and he looks at my shelf and he's like, "Oh wow, you got a lot of these." And I was
mhm.
like, "Oh, that's like that's like a dozen." I mean, what are you talking about? But like his perception of a lot, like,
Mhm.
because they're a dozen and they're $10 a piece. So there's like $120 worth of figures sitting on a shelf, which is not
Yeah.
$1 million. But to
but
some people, like spending that much money on some action figures
yeah,
is a
but
lot.
but then someone like that probably goes home and then opens their wine cellar that's got 40 some odd random
Yeah,
bottles of
to each their
random
own. And I
yeah.
don't think he
It,
wasn't being he wasn't besmirching me at all, but he was
uh-huh.
like, "Oh wow, you've got a lot of these." And I'm like, "Boy, brother, you don't even know." But it's all a matter of perception. But I'm
Mhm.
glad we took some time to talk about, because in the beginning of the show we were talking a lot about, what it looks like, what could happen if you have too many. And
Yeah,
but now, you know, I'm glad we had a chance to talk about the fact that it brings us joy. And if
yeah,
something brings you joy and is not cumbersome on
mhm.
your well-being,
Yeah,
then so be it. Enjoy it.
yeah,
Have as many as you need or want. I think people always ask, like, when are you going to stop buying? It'll be when toys I connect with no longer exist.
yeah,
Right. So if
mhm.
all of the characters I love, let's just say from this point forward, no movies, no cartoons, no toys come out that I can connect with anyway,
Mhm.
I'm not going to buy them just because they're well sculpted or well done or could
Mhm.
be of value to me one way or another. Like once
Yeah,
I have toys that I no longer connect with, they're not lines that I know, there's nothing that I can connect with, then
mhm.
uh then that's when I'll stop buying.
Yeah.
Or I go broke, or somebody puts me in an asylum.
And even then, I want some way to collect something.
Right.
You can't stop me. So,
Right.
all right, well, I think that's a good note to end on.
And no, if your collection has begun to have adverse effects on you, Tom and I will take it off your hands with no problem.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll full on pawn stars you because they'll be like, oh, I can't possibly give you more than this much because I've got to look at it and then I've got to pick it up and then I've got to walk over to the car with it. Yeah,
Oh,
that's all gonna.
I was just saying I'd come pick it up. I'm not
Oh yeah. Oh, you are being extra generous today. Good job. All right. Well, I think that'll do us for another episode of Two Guys Talking Toys. Thank you for joining us for another discussion. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you are enjoying what you're liking and what you're seeing, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, tell your buddies, get a hold of us on the X Place or Blue Sky. Our handle is Two Guys Talking Toys. That is the number 2, no G after the talking. Our Gmail is the same thing. Also, look for us on Instagram. It's 2G Talking Toys. Till next time, take care, everybody.